Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Crushing Chaos. I'm your host Nick, and across the table from me is my other host Jay.
Hello.
Today we are continuing our house series. We're going to talk about Mars.
Oh boy.
And people have, people tend to have, it's a very love or hate with Mars.
Yeah.
Either people absolutely hate them or people think Mars is the greatest thing ever. I am on the side of, I understand why people hate them. I personally love them.
I think I said this in the last episode. I'm just confused by them mostly.
Sure. So I'm going to help clear up that confusion because I've played Mars quite a bit because I really like them. I don't go and seek them out.
Yeah.
But from all my playing, I feel like I have a good grasp on like what makes a good Mars deck, what are you looking for, and what sort of needs to happen. So the Mars is mostly what you want are Martians, Mars creatures, the little weak creatures that reap to do things. And that's where the problem comes in, is that in order for them to do things, they have to reap, which means you have to play them, they have to survive, and then you have to choose Mars again in order for them to do anything.
Yeah.
So the biggest things you want are things that get around that. And there are several at the common level and a few at the uncommon and maybe rare level. What you want is some number of soft landing, which is play the next creature or artifact you play this turn, enters play ready. I did not realize that said artifact. That's important. That changes a lot.
We learn something every day.
We learn something every day.
That's why we do the podcast.
And then you want Squawker, which is you gain an amber, also an action, ready a Mars creature or stun a non-Mars creature. I love the versatility. I almost never stun anything with it.
Yeah.
I always want the Mars creature to ready so I can use it again. And then, where is he? John Smith. John Smith is so dangerous. He is the number one Mars creature you want for the Martians. And he is a 2-power, elusive, fight or reap, ready a non-agent Mars creature. And the only agents in Mars are John Smith himself. So it's just he can't ready himself. You can't do that broken kind of combo. But I've had games where I was playing a sealed event and my opponent led with a John Smith and I was like, oh crap. That guy needs to die immediately or else things got bad. Mm-hmm. I could not kill him immediately. Things got bad. So what he did the next turn is he has John Smith out.
Yep.
He plays a Tunk.
Yeah.
He readies that Tunk, which Tunk is a 6-power, 1-armor creature. After you play another Mars creature, you may heal Tunk. So I play Tunk. He comes into play exhausted. Reap with John Smith. Gain my amber. Readies the Tunk. Tunk fights something and kills it. Then he plays another Mars creature. I don't remember which one. Heals the Tunk. I mean, that's a busted huge turn. It's all because of John Smith. From there, it was a real struggle. I did not win that game.
Yeah.
I came close to clawing my way back into it, but like after an opening like that, it was really hard to get back into that game.
Yeah, I got hit when we were playing PAX Unplugged. It was a John Smith into the Megamouth into something. I forgot what the non-Mars creature was, but it was just like, oh, for God's sakes. Like it just and then you're reaping that whole time. So he's like,
yep.
Gain, and then I forgot. It'll come to me, but like then maybe it was like a Witch of the Wild into like something, and it was just like, oh, it was just like it just kept going, and that was just a crazy combo. So and I think where I get confused. Sorry, just to
keep going.
They're very situational to me, and maybe it's just the Mars I've played, but like it's like like for instance, Mother Gun is a weapon artifact, and for an action you reveal any number of Mars cards from your hand, deal damage, blah 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 blah. Right? Mm-hmm. I've seen people use that so well.
Yep, to devastating effect.
I can never get it off. Like it's always like I have like 2 Mars guys or things in my hand. I'm like, ugh. And then I'll generally have the other Mars. There's a Mars creature or reveal. Yeah, it's like another one that's another reveal from your hand, but you have to have it out. And I'm just like, okay, well, I can't. Then that leaves me with 1 Mars creature. It's like this whole thing.
There's a lot of cards, a few cards in Mars like that require you to have other Mars creatures. Like you have Over Bombardment, uncommon, gain 2 an amber, reveal any number of Mars creatures from your hand. For each card revealed this way, deal 2 damage to a creature. Basically the same thing as Mother Gun.
Yeah.
Except it's an action, it gains you an amber, and you can deal 2. What is the card you were thinking of?
Let's see.
Mothership's also in action.
Battlefleet.
Battlefleet is so good. Read what it does. Read what it does.
Okay, so Battlefleet is an action. You gain an amber. When you put it in play, reveal any number of Mars cards from your hand. For each card revealed this way, draw a card.
Yeah. Which usually means tons of Mars creatures. Because you...
What?
I've had that thing like draw me 3 cards before, and it's just like, oh. So back on topic. So you mostly have Martians. So my favorites in the I have so many favorites. Because the thing about the Martians is their reap abilities, unlike in a lot of other houses where the reap abilities are a bit situational, because they depend on what your opponent's doing and what they have in play.
Oh, it's this one. I'm sorry. Compod.
What does it do?
So it's an action or artifact, and the action is reveal any number of Mars cards from your hand. For each card revealed this way, you may ready 1 Mars creature.
I've never seen this card.
Oh, really? I have it. Yeah, I have. It's very. I don't know, but I always have it. Like, it's a cool combo with Mothership, but like I can never get it off.
Oh, that is really good.
Yeah. Because it's always like, I don't know.
This is what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like you need ways to get your Martians to reap the turn they come into play.
Right, yeah.
Because if you can do that, it is devastating.
Yeah.
No, I've not seen Compod. I've never had a deck with that in there.
Yeah, especially if you have Crystal Hive. You did that to me with Crystal Hive, right? Where
Yeah, that card's real good.
So it's an artifact location for the remainder it's an action for the remainder of the turn, gain 1 amber each time a creature reaps.
Yeah. See, this is why we love Mars. We're getting so off topic here. We're not even talking about commons
I'm sorry. We'll go back to commons. That was my fault.
No, we're fine.
Because I'm just Mars is. I think what confuses me, maybe confusion was the wrong term, but it's just complex. Mars is super complex.
Very difficult to play and to play correctly. But like I was saying, the thing about their reap abilities is they're things that generally just benefit you, or don't care what your opponent's doing. That's always just good for you. For instance, one of my favorite cards in this entire game is Mind Warper. 2 power, Mars creature, elusive. Choose an enemy creature. It captures 1 from its own side. This trips people up a lot. So you're gonna use his action. You're gonna take an amber from their pool. You put it on their creature. Then when that creature dies, you get that amber. People like. I always correct people. It's just like, no, that's not the way capture is worded, because they try to put it back in their own pool. It's like, no. The way capture is worded is that when a creature dies with captured amber, that amber goes to the opposing player. Yeah. So all captured amber will always go to the opponent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very that one trips up a lot of people. I would say that too. I've seen that.
Zivix the Many is super, super good.
Yeah.
3 power, Fighter Reap. You may reveal a creature from your hand. If you do, archive it, and Zivix the Many gets 3 +1/+1 counters. The archiving alone is super powerful, but this guy then ends up as a 9 power beater.
The Marauder there. He's what's his name? Yixley?
Oh, Yixley the Marauder. This guy's hard to pull off.
Yeah, so he gets +1 power for each amber on him. And he's 2 power. When you put him into play, he captures 1 for each friendly Mars creature. So I have him in a deck. I found Swen the Fence with him is good, because then you can, from Shadow, because you're capturing amber. So
that reduces his power. With him, it's just like, the most I usually get him for is like 2 or 3. But the big thing about him is you want him to be at least 4 power. Because we talked about like the power threshold several episodes ago.
Yeah.
You want him to get in that 4 or 5 range where it's just more difficult for him to die. So he can hang on to that captured amber. So he has that kind of effect. Granted, it makes sense. The more capture amber he has, the better. The more powerful he is, the better.
Right.
I don't think we're going to go into too much more detail about the specific Martians, because the only one that's, Megamouth, Ulig Megamouth, Fighter Reap, use a friendly non-Mars creature. This is a fairly common, great card. use something that's outside of his house, really strong. You get out John Smith, you use them multiple times a turn. All of a sudden, you're activating every creature on your board, regardless of what house they are.
Yeah.
Those guys are super powerful.
All right,
even
so-
more powerful than Mars.
So let's take a step back
Yeah.
and let's talk from your perspective. Because we've talked Logos as a support, Shadow. What is Mars? What do you see Mars as?
Mars is a main house for sure.
As a main house, and what are other houses you like to see comboed with it?
Ooh, that I like to see comboed with it. Things that protect your Martians. So like Sanctum is really good with Mars because you get those taunt guys down and you get the Martians next to them. Then you don't have to rely so much on cards that let you ready or use those creatures the turn they come into play. They can just they have a better chance of surviving.
Yeah.
Who else is good? Dis is good only because you then have a large number of cards that just need to die. Because Mars creatures are cards that, like the Mind Warper, the John Smith, the Megamouth, those are cards that like your opponent really, really wants to get rid of them.
Yeah.
You combine it with a house of a ton of creatures that your opponent really wants to get rid of, like Ember Imp, which is the 2 powerful.
Yeah.
Your opponent can play 2 cards. The Succubus, your opponent has a 1 chain as long as it's in play. Those cards that just need to die. As long as they don't have a board wipe, which just makes it really easy for them to get rid of. And we'll actually talk about a board wipe that's really good at that, that's in Mars. Your opponent is faced with really difficult choices. The disc creatures have an immediate impact right now. They don't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Mars creatures, like, you need to choose that house. You need to make that choice. So your opponent's probably more likely to go for the disc creatures because they're affecting them right now.
Yeah.
Who else? Logos is good because... So Logos has the... we talked about the OTK last turn. Mars can do that too. It's one of the houses that do it. I don't want to say easily, but can accomplish it with key abduction. Uncommon out of Mars. Gain an amber. Return each Mars creature to its owner's hand. Then you may forge a key at 9 plus the current cost, reduced by 1 for each card in your hand. So this is a card that you can cycle through your deck, gain a ton of amber. You can do the same thing as key charge. You can do with key abduction. It's more difficult, but it can be done. So Logos is a good combo. I'm trying to think of who is just strong. I mean, Shadows is a good combo with everything because Shadows is busted. Again, we will talk about that in a couple episodes.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for the Shadows episode. So we talked about Sanctum, about protecting them. So the other part of Mars is Mars is sort of a menagerie. Like, we've only talked about the Martians, but then you have like the robots and the really interesting things on the Mars, or the mutants that aren't Martian and are just add a real different dimension and layer to the house. So like the common one is Yixilix Dominator. It's a 9 power, 1 armor taunt. But when he enters play, he's stunned. So that's fine because he has the taunt, and you just set your Martians up next to him. They're much harder to kill. Or if you want him to get in the fight a bit earlier, you can soft landing him, you can squawker him, get rid of that stun immediately. So the next time you activate that house, this 9 power, 1 armor beater is just destroying things. We already talked about Tonk. Oh, Grabber Jammer.
Yeah.
Grabber Jammer it doesn't look like much because it's 4 power and 1 armor. So it's 4 power, 1 armor creature. Your opponent's key costs +1. Fight or reap, he captures 1. This guy is surprisingly difficult to deal with. Like, I don't know if it's because of there's other Martians your opponent really wants to deal with, because he's not necessarily allowing your opponent to win or really affecting your board. He's just stopping you from forging a key.
Yeah.
So I find that people don't target him very often. He tends to live quite a while, and it makes him really good. And the longer he lives, the more amber he captures, the more you gain.
Yeah.
I love him. Ammonia Clouds, this is what we're talking about with that board wipe. Ammonia Cloud is a total nombo with a lot of the Martians, but when it's good, it's amazing. So it's an action, play, deal 3 damage to each creature, yours and your opponent's. Now, this kills all the Martians. All the good Martians, this kills. But there are a lot of situations because your opponent is generally trying to get rid of your Martians, which means they're doing it any way they can. They're fighting, they're using their spells. But if they're fighting, that generally weakens them. And suddenly Ammonia Cloud just comes in and cleans everything up.
Yep.
That's where it's been best for me. It's good at cleaning things up. It's not necessarily a board wipe that comes down and just destroys everything. But Like there's been action happening, there's been fighting going on. This thing comes in and just like, okay, I take out 3 of your creatures because you've been using them.
Yeah.
Phosphorus Stars, super situational. Action, play, stun each non-Mars creature, gain 2 chains. When this is good, it's amazing. Because in a lot of ways, stunning is worse than killing.
Yeah.
Because then your opponent needs to make a conscious decision if they want to unstun, and that takes time. Time that they're not doing anything except unstunning. But again, this is super situational. Because you have other houses too, and if you play it and you have a bunch of non-Mars, that's going to stop. That's going to stun your guys too.
Yeah.
But there are those great plays where you've got like 3 Mars dudes. You pick up that Phosphorus Stars, and you just stun their entire board. Yours is fine. The flip side of that is I play a bunch of Mars creatures. I say my Phosphorus Stars, well, this is going to be great next turn when I activate these guys, and then my opponent wipes my board. And suddenly I have a Phosphorus Star that's stuck in my hand and a house that I don't want to choose.
Yep.
So Phosphorus Stars is one of those cards that I don't want to hang on to. I'm just going to, if I choose Mars, I have it, I'm just going to discard it. But if I draw it later and I just happen to have that right setup, it is so good. We talked about Mother Gun.
Yeah, biometric backup. That one's pretty cool. It's an upgrade. Gains, you get an amber, and then you put on a creature, and the creature gains destroyed. You may put this creature into its owner's archives.
Very important errata on this card. For a while, it was really bad. So, the way Biometrics Backup is worded, when it was destroyed on your opponent's turn, your opponent got the choice of whether it died or went to the archive. So they've now errated it and gotten rid of the May trigger. So now it reads, when this creature is destroyed, you put this creature into its owner's archive.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yes.
Explain this to me. Oh. So you would put biometrics backup on someone else's card.
No.
Explain this to me.
Okay, so you put it on your creature. It's now your opponent's turn. They destroy that creature. Because of the way it works with priority, your opponent would choose what happened with that creature, whether it was destroyed or archived.
Why? Because the May was on their turn?
Yes.
And the you May.
Yes.
So it was up to your opponent because the you was during their turn.
Yes. And your opponent makes all decisions with cards on their turn.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So for a while, this card got real bad. It basically just gained you an amber.
Yeah.
Now, though, it's still not as good as it should be, but it's much, much better because they've removed the May part of it. And
So
now
now
it
it's
just
just-
automatically goes in
You
the
put
archive.
this creature into its owner's archive.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. That is funny how that works. I never took it that way.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, that's not the way it was intended, but that's how the rules are written. I
Right.
mean, originally it was intended, it's just like you always get the choice. I think that's it for commons. The only other
Yeah.
common we haven't talked about is one I don't like, which is Vezja's... that was horrible. Think Drone?
Dude, I'll say, like, a lot of the names in this game are odd, but the Mars, they just add all these, like, Y's and Z's and X's to the front of stuff.
All
and you're
these-
just like, just because you did that doesn't make it Martian.
Apparently it does. Because it certainly makes it difficult for me to say.
Yeah.
And then you have a card like Tunk. It
Yeah.
just says Tunk.
Yeah.
So the Think Drone is Reap. You may archive a friendly creature or artifact from play. I don't like this card. There are situations in my head that I can think of where this is good. Like your opponent's got a ton of damage on it. It's about to die. You archive it to save it. I mean, I could see that. I just don't. I don't think it just doesn't do anything most of the time. Hopefully somebody proves me wrong and somebody says, well, if you do it with this and this. So moving on, we're going to talk about uncommons and rares. And there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I love Mars because I love pretty much all of their cards.
Yeah, it's weird looking through some of the, I don't know, maybe because not many, I think this might be the reason, but maybe because myself and my opponents that I've played don't really play Mars a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was looking through the uncommons and the rares for Mars, I was like, I have literally never seen this card, like ever. Like I've never seen this card. One of them was that Shatterstorm. I don't know if you've ever seen that. So it's an action. And when it comes into play, you lose all your amber, then your opponent loses triple the amount of amber
Oh, yeah, that
that
card's
you
real
lost.
good.
I was just like, what? I've never seen that card.
I love that card.
Yeah. Total Recall. That was another one I've never seen. So that's an amber. It's an
There it is.
action. It gets you an amber. You gain an action, and when you put it into play for each friendly ready creature, you gain one amber. Return each friendly creature to your hand.
That's really interesting if you have a board full of Mars creatures.
Yeah.
Because then you just forget to replay them.
Right, and then you could do Mother Gun or something again. Yeah,
We talked about Battlefleet.
Yeah.
Like, you reveal 3 Mars creatures, you draw 3 cards, you draw more Mars creatures. That card's really, really good. EMP Blast. Each Mars creature and each robot creature is stunned. Each artifact is destroyed. Good because it's artifact control. Situational because it's Mars and it affects Mars. Because there are some robots in Logos, but Mars has robots and Mars, of course, has Mars creatures. So playing this without screwing yourself over is pretty rough.
Yeah, one of the ones I had in one of my decks was Custom Virus. So it's an artifact. You gain an amber when you put it out, its weapon, and it's Omni. Sacrifice Custom Virus. Purge a creature from your hand. Destroy each creature that shares a trait with the purged creature. Like, I can never wrap my head around this. I'm just
Sure. I got you.
Yeah.
Because I played with this card and it was really good. So let's say, let me go.
So define trait first, and then
Sure. So a
yeah.
trait, if you look at creatures, but below their name are their traits. Like, so Untamed, this is where I was using it the most. Untamed has a lot of beast. Is
Okay.
it?
Oh, so it's like they're Martian scientist or whatever, or
Yes.
beast, or yeah. Okay.
Just a second. Let me find that card so I can actually read the wording on it. Is it an uncommon or a rare?
Boom. It's got the star, so it's a
Rare.
rare.
There it is. So the way I had this in one of my seal decks, and it was fantastic because it seemed like every one of my opponents had Untamed, and I had Untamed in my deck. So you sacrifice the custom virus, and you discard. In my case, it was usually a beast.
You purge.
You purge a beast. And even no, a lot of my opponents had Untamed, and I had 2 of the what's the name of the card? Zorgs. Zorg is a Mars creature, 7 power. He enters play stunned. Before fight, stun Zorg. Before stun the creature Zorg's fighting and each of its neighbors. So he's a beast. So I would purge him and destroy all of my opponent's beasts. And sometimes I would get like 3 creatures with that. It was really, really good. It's super situational.
Yeah.
But it gains you an amber. And it's also Omni.
Yeah.
So you can just use it whenever.
Yeah, no, and I get that. It was just like I had it in one of my decks, and I'm just like, oh, I don't even know how to wrap my head around this one.
So let's get a little organized here.
Okay.
So we started talking about like
You know
what
how much I hate organization. Go on, though.
yeah, as I look around your house.
Man, I'm an artist at heart. I can't help it.
So Mars needs ways for creatures to come into play ready.
Yeah.
So let's talk about other ways that do it, and the uncommons and rares. So you have Blip, 2 power creature, Reap. The next Mars creature that comes into play ready. Difficult to pull off, but is a way that does that. That gets a creature into play ready, and that's. I mean, there isn't much more.
Yeah.
I'm looking through it. There's a lot of these cards that I haven't seen, which is what I love about this game. There's so many cards that there's so many cards that I haven't seen because I've only bought 20 decks. I've only played with 20 decks. Anyway. So, Blip, awesome. Something else you want in your deck. To get those Mars creatures out there, to get them reaping. So, on the reaping side, one of my favorite cards in Mars, and we have to talk about, is the Zookeeper. I'm not going to try and pronounce his first name. That's
Come on.
So this card is busted strong. And I'll tell you about a situation where I won a game basically on turn 2. So it's 2 power, elusive, reap. Put an enemy creature into your archives. If that creature leaves your archives, it goes back into the owner's hand. So basically, you reap with him and you get to destroy a creature. Just don't ever pick up your archive. So I had a game where I started with a Shadow Self. So Shadow Self, out of shadows, 9 power. When it fights, it doesn't deal damage, but any damage dealt to its non-Spectre neighbors is dealt to Shadow Self instead. So we started off with a Shadow Self turn 1. And then on one side, we put down a Zookeeper. On the other side, we put down a John Smith. So every turn from then on, I believe I had a Mind Warper in there too, just for just for some added flavor. So every turn, I activate my Mind Warper. I steal one of their amber.
Yep.
I use my Zookeeper to archive that creature. I get that amber, and I get an amber for reaping. I reap with my John Smith. I ready that Zookeeper. I reap with him again. I destroyed 2 creatures in one turn, and it was after like 2 or 3 turns of me doing this repeatedly and my opponent not doing anything. It was just like I'm done here. So I love this card. This card is super, super powerful.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I have him in a deck. I have to go revisit some of these decks, but Mars is maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's just me personally, but I feel like there's a lot of other decks that I don't know, they just make sense, and you can kind of see the the combos and stuff and the synergies. But Mars is like really complex, and I'm like, okay, like what you just described doing with the Zookeeper, I never would have thought of that. Like it just seems insane, and so it's hard to wrap my head around Mars and what they can accomplish.
Yes.
Because they're a little off. Like
Yes.
everything else makes sense and kind of combos together, and the synergies make sense. But Mars is like, you got to really think it through to make it work, number one. But then when you get it working, you got to do things in certain order, and
So Mars, most houses play by the rules, so to speak, and Mars just doesn't. Like, you end up having these really powerful effects on these really tiny dudes, and it's hard to get your head wrapped around that and how best to utilize that,
Yeah.
and that the fact that you need to make sure that those things are happening. So yeah, and then mixed in there are these random creatures
it's just
that don't make any sense.
that's funny. I was gonna bring that up, like that Zorg creature. Like it's a
Yep.
that one. What's the other beast one that they have that's really
Well, there's 2 of them. So you got Shuff Ape, which is
Yeah.
I really want a deck with that card. I don't have one. So he's 11 power, and he has taunt.
yeah.
He enters play stun, and when you fight a reef, you may sacrifice another friendly creature. If you do, you fully heal him.
Yeah. Gromid?
Gromid, I do have a
Gromid.
deck with him.
He's 10 power. He's a beast. You cannot play creatures when he's in play. And then after an enemy creature is destroyed fighting Gromid, your opponent loses an amber.
Yep.
Very weird.
He is such a trap because you cannot play creatures.
Right.
And it's just like, so you basically play him and just run amok with him, hoping he dies. Hoping you just need to make him enough of a nuisance that your opponent tries to kill him rather than your other stuff.
Yeah.
So that you can start playing creatures again. And then you end up in this situation where maybe your opponent doesn't try to kill him because
Right.
he doesn't want you to play
Because
creatures.
they don't care. Yeah.
But then you have this 10 power beater just taking amber and destroying their board.
Yeah. The other one I saw, I've never seen it in real life, just saw it here, is the Ether Spider.
You've never seen the Ether Spider? Ether Spider's really good.
No, so 7
I wanna talk
power,
about that
creature
one.
beast. Ether Spider deals no damage when fighting.
Mm-hmm.
But 7 power, again, I want to reiterate that before we get to the next part. Each amber that would be added to your opponent's pool is captured by Ether Spider instead.
Yes.
Dude, so nasty.
I've had games where my opponent had an Ether Spider, and I would just continually just gain tons and tons of amber, and it just goes on the Ether Spider, and eventually I just destroy the Ether Spider, and I get all of it.
Yeah.
So, like, a great combo with Ether Spider is basically Shadows. Anything that steals. So if you can get, like, let's say you have 12 amber on your Ether Spider, and your opponent destroys, and they get all that amber back, and then you bait and switch them, and you
Yeah.
take it all.
Yeah.
Take it all for
so
good.
interesting. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Oh, I have the Plague Master. I'm not gonna try. Actually, I will. It's Quixlix. Quixlix. So it's Qyxxlyx. Plague Master. Creature, Martian Scientist, 3 power. Fighter Reap, deal 3 damage to human creature. This damage cannot be prevented by armor. So it's good against Sanctum.
Very, very important against Sanctum.
Very specific though. Not
Yeah. Well, there are a
uh,
lot of cards that are like that. Like, we talked about Osmo and the Logos that only affects Mars creatures. This is one only affects humans. This is actually one of the better of them because I think there's more humans
Yeah.
floating around than a lot of other things. And it's just, there isn't really a downside to it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
play a 3-power creature. That's fine. The rare card Phylix, the Disintegrator. We talked about our power episode about how one power creatures are generally super, super powerful, and this is no exception.
Yeah.
So it's one power, elusive. Action. Your opponent loses amber for each friendly Mars creature. Important. It doesn't have to be a ready Mars creature. It just has to be a Mars creature.
Yep.
You have played against this because I have a deck with it
Yeah.
that I really like.
I did not like it.
And I protected the crap out of this thing, and every turn just losing like 2 or 3 amber.
Yeah.
And it has elusive, and you could only fight with things.
Right.
And I stuck it next to a Dominator.
Yeah, that was a pretty awful game. Yeah, I find when I'm playing Nick, and he has a deck with Mars, like it's gonna be a bad time for me. I would say for you, that's one of your best. I think one of your best houses. Like you just seem to understand Mars.
To understand what's going on?
Yeah. And so I always notice whenever you start pulling Mars, I'm like, oh crap. And I think maybe eventually that's something we could talk about on the podcast is understanding when you're playing an opponent, someone you've never played before, like watching their first turn and seeing what they play and how they play it, and understanding what level of player you're about to play against. Because I think that's kind of key information too.
Well, let's start wrapping this up.
Yeah.
Mars is all about prioritization. You need to know what cards to be playing in what order. Like, you need to know that your Mother Gun needs to get down early.
Yeah.
It has to be the number one priority to get down first, so that
Yeah.
you can then activate it for the rest of the game. You need to know that if you're playing your Mars creatures, you need to know that, one, they could die. You need to do as much as you can to make sure they don't die. And to put them... So, you need to kind of read your opponent to know, like, okay, what do I think they're going to choose? Is it likely that my Mars creatures are going to die? Maybe I'll play a couple because I want my opponent to try and kill them rather than do whatever it is they want to do because they know they have to die. And again, you need to have that combination of, you need to have a few cards like John Smith, Soft Landing, Squawker, cards that let you use your Mars creatures the turn they come into play.
Yeah.
Because most of them that have reap abilities have devastating effects.
Yeah, and I like the Logos Mars combos are usually pretty good when you're archiving Mars cards, and it becomes a whole hassle.
My favorite combo. So my favorite combo with Mars, and this is the Mars deck I was playing Jay with. Out of Shadows. Damn it, no, I can't remember the name of it.
Oh no.
He's gonna
Look it up.
I gotta look it up.
Let me do a little talking here, so it makes it sound like we're actually podcasting while he's looking something up. I had nothing to talk about. Mars.
Speed Sigil.
There we go.
It is is it an uncommon? Uncommon, Out of Shadows, gains an amber. The first creature played each turn enters play ready. It is the best combo with Mars creatures.
I hate it so much.
So my deck has one Speed Sigil. If it does not have Speed Sigil out, that deck is really bad. It becomes amazing with Speed Sigil because of the card I was just talking about, the one that makes your opponent lose amber based on your Mars creatures. It has a Moon Cursor, which is a 1-power creature. It's got Skirmish and Poison, and when it fights, it steals an amber. And so the strategy with this deck is I will mulligan for that card. If it is not in my starting hand, I will mulligan for it.
Yeah,
if it's still not in my starting hand, I will dig for it.
Yeah, I think I played you when you didn't get the Speed Sigil out and just like destroyed you. It was just like, oh, okay, but then we played again and you had the Speed Sigil and then you destroyed me. It was just a very odd.
Yes, I think it was one I was experimenting with because it's just like it seems like this is really good, and then I played it. It's like, wow, having Speed Sigil changes this deck completely.
Yeah, I'll say that too. There's a lot of decks out there that one card makes or breaks the deck sometimes, and what you just said is right. Like, you should mulligan or try to get those cards. It doesn't mean the deck's bad. It just means you need to play differently is all.
Well, it's a new aspect of how I've been playing. It's just like some decks are super powerful, but you need the right cards, and you need to mulligan for those. Aggressively mulliganing is a strategy. You don't just necessarily mulligan because your hand is weak. It might be a weak starting hand, but it has exactly what you need to set up the rest of the game.
Agreed. Yeah, I've gone from first player with 7 down to first player with 5. just to get what I needed to get.
Well, you can't do
Or
that.
I mean 6.
Yeah.
I meant 6 to 5, 7 to 6.
Yes. Remember, when you mulligan, this is not like Magic. You can
Right.
only mulligan once.
Right.
Because otherwise that would be busted.
Yeah, that would be bad. But all right,
Yeah.
I think we're good.
I think that wraps us up. When you want a Mars deck, you want things that you want to protect your Martians. You want to use them immediately. You want some dominators, and things to protect your guys, and just reap like crazy. And that will wrap us up for this episode. So until next time, everybody, take it easy.
Reap like crazy.